We are, huh? We're back live again here on Thursday, huh? April 30th. Goodness, last day of the month. Yeah. Don't forget to pay your rent tomorrow. April 30th. And back in the chair. Dan, we appreciate you coming back. I guess you have to re-identify yourself and sort of pick us back up on educating the committee on the Vermont Vehicle
Merchant.
Inspection Program.
Dan Merchant with Vermont DMV Enforcement and Safety Investigations Unit. I'm a lieutenant there, for the record. And we are back talking about Vermont vehicle inspections. And we left off on this slide here regarding the repair documentation when mechanics are looking at vehicles. So we'll go to the next one here. Unless anybody has any questions when we stop, everybody good? So this would, like I said, the tablet will take the mechanic right through step by step. So it'll say, review registration certificate, verify VIN, the same that the VIN and the registration certificate match, verify the insurance coverage exists to conduct the road test. Some stations carry their own insurance. And as you can see there, where it says like check full manual, if the mechanic needs to reference what's in the Vermont Periodic Inspection Manual, they can click on that specific section. It'll take them right to the that portion of the manual, and wherever they're at in the manual, it does that. So this takes you through the visual walk around, check for rear lights. I don't know if you want me to read every single one of these, but this is the visual walk around section of the inspection, and basically just like I said, walking through as they're going around the car.
I'm not sure if you can hit the view slides piece that makes it bigger, or if that's just the way that the only way.
It's just the way the slide is, I think. I'm sorry, but
Sometimes they do or don't show the whole thing on the side there.
yeah.
I can't read it from here, so I get the
So
other.
check for rear license plate, check for torn metal or corrosion, which breaks the integrity of the sheet metal by passing through any non-structural areas. That's like basically if the rocker panel, there's giant holes inside the car. Check bumpers, fenders, flaps, and body height. Ensure the tires do not protrude past the fender wells. See that a lot with pickup trucks with the tires outside the wells. Technically, that is a failure. Check lamps and lenses for damage. Check required exterior lamps. Check windshield for aftermarket tint or damage in the critical area or non-transparent matters.
Those are going to fail current. Right?
Well, yeah. So for instance, if so that's the other section. So they can check the note and there'll be an advisory item saying, this is contrary to what's in state statute pursuant to, Title 23 VSA section.
Yeah, so we pass.
Yeah. Check truck caps and bed liners, and then perform the shock absorber strut bounce test, which I think was also one of the proposed changes. So yeah, here we are. Is the advisory items. Is there any damage outside the critical area of the windshield? If yes, you make a note, and then that note will be, we'll get to there, it'll print up on the vehicle inspection report, or VIR as you call it. The vehicle equipped with unauthorized aftermarket lighting, any license plates, faded, missing, obscured, obscurely mounted, and whatnot.
Representative Powell?
Sure.
Yeah, it was a question I was gonna ask because, in discussing making more items just advisory or, it doesn't meet law, but, you're getting advised. And the question we had asked before is then next year you go to an inspection station and they start the inspection. Do they visually see that there was this issue with the car in the last inspection and they were advised to fix it?
If it's an advisory, no, it's only if it's a failure item. The failure item will then, so when the station goes to pull it up to do the next inspection, they'll see that there was a failure there, and then they've got to go into that specific section to correct that.
Okay,
that
so
section.
if you fail and and you say, well, I'm gonna get it fixed myself, and you go off and then you go to another station, they see that you had a failure,
Correct.
but
So that's a whole nother, so if they take payment for the inspection, they're supposed to record it in AVIT. So if somebody is doing, saying like a courtesy inspection of the vehicle, they may, take a look at the vehicle and tell them, hey, you need, new tires, new rotors, whatever. So it may not be recorded in AVIT because they didn't take payment for it, so they're not required to do it.
okay, and I can understand that. So today, you haven't, so there's a number of things that there's discussion about making advisory. Not safety advisory. Do we have advisory things now that you might walk away with? You pass, but you know what, your tires are really close or something like that.
Yeah, so there's actually a section here on the tires that'll say your tread depths between 230 seconds and 430 seconds in advisory, because during a year period, that tread's gonna go below. I was actually just driving through Pittsburgh the other day and a car went off the road, and when we pulled it up out of the ditch, they looked like NASCAR tires on it. I mean, there was like no tread left on those things. But yes, they're, so same thing, like, the advisory item, like right now, if you go in there with, tin on your front windows, it passes, but it's an advisory item. So it's just documented on the vehicle inspection report.
Representative Coy and Representative White?
It's just, things are scarce, and you use those for your tire, and checking onto another coinage, a dime or something.
I've never
You know,
used
that
it.
head of a Lincoln penny, or whatever it is, I heard that.
If his head's gone.
I know, I always heard that.
I thought it was a-
But probably not a real one on the panic.
I bet it's
I'll
under
use it.
statute.
Yeah.
Except in Illinois.
There's a tread depth gauge. You can buy for like a couple bucks at
Penny's a penny.
at Napa or wherever else. And
Gee,
In Illinois, I'm sure it's how they check them. They still accept pennies in the toll booth there
yeah,
too.
right.
Representative White.
Just a question, maybe this was on your last slide, just, you've got pass, fail, rep, and NA, what is the rep
repair.
repair?
So it
So-
was an item that was repaired. And NA is if, say, for instance, it's an older model car that may not have that manufactured with it. You're gonna put NA in there and make a note that, that vehicle's not manufactured with that, so it's not applicable.
Right, okay, but so if you've got check odometer and speedometer, and if my speedometer is broken, I'm not gonna get a fail, I'm gonna get a rep, like,
It has to be working for it to pass inspection.
right, I guess I'm trying to understand when do they mark fail and when do they mark repair? I mean, I guess if they see it's a failure and then you get the okay to repair it,
Yes,
Then
they
they go
would,
back
they
to
would, they would
pass.
mark repair and then it would be repair to pass.
so it's like a step in the process.
It is, but I'm gonna tell you from experience that buttons,
Never
More.
knows.
more often than not, it's pass fail.
Yeah, okay.
That repair button is not being utilized the way it probably should be.
And if we are gonna move ahead with some of these advisory suggestions for inspections, would a repair then be allowed to pass? Because it'd be more like an advisory, or,
I'm confused. Sorry.
so in the DMV bill, we'll be talking more about, inspections, and some categories on the inspection are being proposed to move from pass fail to advisory, I think. So I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so that would,
where that would,
so this would pop.
okay, so this is already addressing that.
That would, so the advisory criteria would then be moved into that, so it wouldn't be in the pass fail section.
Okay,
Because if it's an advisory item, it's not gonna give you the,
okay, so I'm just gonna move on from the repair.
yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Representative.
Can you give us some background on why, added tinting to the windshield failed? But on the side, driver's side, and, those side windows, it's just advisory, because it seems like it was either last year or the year before, we had testimony from, state police, who sort of implied that that's a safety issue. Tinted windows, we were taking testimony on tinted windows on a bill that was, and they thought that it was a safety issue because approaching the car, you can't see what's going on inside it. And also discussion about, at a four-way stop and you're trying to look to see what's going on with the car and you can't see. But somebody's made a decision that, hey, on the windshield, it's a safety issue, but the side windows are not. And to me, it seems the opposite. The windshield, it doesn't seem like much of a safety issue, but for the side windows, it is.
I can speak to my own personal experience as a law enforcement officer. As an officer approaching a car on a car stop, absolutely, I would agree it is a safety issue. And having previously, majority of my career prior to coming to DMV was narcotics. And at one point, I had a car that was pretty much completely tinted out based on what I was doing at that time. And driving around at night, it is difficult to see out
Yeah.
that front window and
Yeah.
those side windows. But I can't tell you the wisdom that was used to allow that on the sides. When I approach a car, if somebody has tinted windows, I ask them as I'm at that back corner, please roll down the windows, that way I can see in the car prior to coming up on that pillar.
Yeah, okay,
It's just how I do it, but
all right, thank you.
you're welcome. So road test. So road test, you're checking the interior and exterior of the rearview mirrors, checking the park neutral safety switch and or clutch safety switch function, checking the odometer and speedometer, ABS indicator lamp and brake failure lamp, checking the brake system integrity, checking parking brake, road test brakes, that's what I mentioned earlier, stop within 25 feet at 20 miles per hour, check the front defroster and horn, check airbags, readiness lamp, check power steering components, and check for lash or free play in the steering. While you're doing the road test. And then these are the advisory items that are currently in the manual that in relation to that, is there free play in the steering linkage exceed, a quarter of an inch? Is the tire pressure management system indicator lamp illuminated? Is the rear defroster operable? Is the brake pedal travel greater than 80%? These are all the various different advisory items as it relates to the road test. So vehicle interior, checking the left and right front windows for visibility, check for correct operation of all windows and doors, check back window, check all seat belts, driver's seat working condition. And then the advisory items are listed below. If equipped, fog driving lights inoperable, are the left or right front windows tinted. So that's like we were talking about, it's an advisory item. So that's why it pops up down there as opposed to, oops.
So I know that the test drive is also another item that's being considered not required. I have a constituent who has his own business, been doing this for at least 40 years, my cars. And he came specifically up to me and said, this is a big mistake to not test drive the car. And he was adamant that there's no way you can tell, the brakes are working and just the functioning of things. Do you have an opinion on that?
Do you have an official opinion on that? I don't know what was proposed and.
You're welcome to comment if you'd like.
DMV, yeah, we worked with inspection stations, and we were informed that the majority of them do the tests, brake tests. And I would argue that there are 40 units that do not have a safety inspection. See no crash. Says that it affected the.
Because we would make that argument whether we have a safety inspection at all. The point being, if you do have a safety inspection and you're trying to find really just safety items, if not driving the car is doing an adequate job, I guess that would be what I would be questioning myself.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I think, as a mechanic getting underneath, checking the integrity of the brake lines and the braking components, looking at the pads, the calipers and whatnot, the rotors, making sure that they're in a condition where the vehicle's able to stop, I think hopefully would resolve that. But yeah, the road test is kind of a stop in that, all of that as well. But you're welcome. So vehicle interior did that. Engine compartment, checking the primary. Got another question for you.
I don't mean to belabor the road test, but there's a section of the inspection that is a road test, right? Can we
Correct.
just review that and we have
Yes.
to check yes or no? So, but the deputy commissioner is saying that in talking with inspection stations, inspectors were saying they're not doing the road test. So they're checking that they're doing it, but they're actually not doing it. I mean, that's not really. It shouldn't be a lot, like, so
I can,
I'm just struggling with, again, like, I'm a rule follower, so like, I feel like if we've got an inspection report and you're supposed to check yes or no, or pass or. If you're checking, yes, I've done the road test, when I haven't done the road test, that seems like there's something wrong there.
there is, and there's enforcement and regulations for that. For instance, we had one station that we got a complaint about that was not doing complete inspections. We sat outside, vehicles were coming in and out of there within less than 15 minutes. And I can look live and watch the data as I'm sitting across the street. And there was things that were being checked off on those boxes. That was clearly not, that place is no longer an inspection station.
Well, I thought that when we could either go down that path now one of the things we asked about is how many inspection stations are there? What is the audit process? How do you become an inspection station? How do we check up on them? How do we audit them? We could go down that path now or at the end after we get through the rest of the presentation, or if that's more that you were going to talk about. But we do want to know how you audit the inspectors. How do you inspect the inspectors like that?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the majority said that they don't feel it was necessary. Not that they
Okay.
don't. Yes, but we audit inspections.
Okay.
So inspection stations, like they apply for licensing with DMV. They have an application they have to fill out. There's certain checks that we do before they're able to get licensed. Once all those boxes are checked, an inspector goes out to the inspection station and meets with the applicant and makes sure, obviously that everything is there that's required to be there, lists, the proper tools. And depending on that person's experience, there's a whole, it's actually on here, the station setup. You have to cover a lot of material with them. Depending on what their experiences is, sometimes you'll ask the mechanic to bring in a car and do a mock inspection with them and have them walk you through what they would do during an inspection. And then if we think that, they should be licensed, we approve the licensing. And then during the course of the year, obviously our sworn inspectors, like the law enforcement officers that are assigned areas, it's tough for them to get to a station once a year, but all the other areas where field inspectors are assigned, all those stations get checked at least once a year and audited. They go through, make sure they've got all the required equipment, going through their sticker inventory, making sure that, things line up. We frequently get complaints regarding stations and like if there's, malfeasance or whatever on their part or something being done wrong. Sometimes it's anonymous, sometimes it's not. Obviously, when it's not anonymous, much easier to follow up on. And we will do investigations. Those investigations may result in, depending on the severity of the violation, they're either going to receive written warning and potentially a verbal warning, written warning and education, or a monetary fine, or potentially suspension or revocation, depending on how serious it is. As far as like a number, I couldn't give you a number right now. I'd have to run statistics to see, how many violations, were issued. But I mean, every week we also, when I go back several, like this right here, it'll pop up during the emissions. If the mechanic purposely takes this because there's an issue with the emissions, when they plug into their own car or another car in their parking lot, it will generate what's called an even mismatch, because the even that it's reading, the electronic VIN for the car, will show that it's not the car that's being inspected. And it actually prints, unbeknownst to some folks, even though they've been told this, prints right on the vehicle inspection report. It said an even mismatch was detected. We get an alert from our vendor Parsons once a week at the beginning of the week. Every Sunday night, Monday morning, right at about midnight, they come through for each and every single area if there was an even mismatch. Sometimes it's complete error, or a dealership just got in a bunch of new cars and they got a work order messed up, or somebody is purposely circumventing the emissions portion of the inspection because they either don't know how to fix the problem or it's for other nefarious purposes. Same thing all of those get investigated. So each week, I kind of compare it to the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial, time to make the donuts, time to do the events. So those come through each week and those get investigated.
How many inspection stations are there?
There is approximately 1,600 inspection stations statewide. And
I'm sorry.
somebody had asked me earlier about motorcycles. There are 219 stations licensed to conduct inspections on motorcycles here in the state.
And your team is responsible for investigating or managing all of those? How many people on your, how many?
So we have
How many on your team?
We have 2 lieutenants, so I have 4 under me, and the other lieutenant has 3 under him. And, you know, we help out obviously with those as well and take cases on depending on other things that are going on, obviously. Like today, I left here and we recovered a stolen car. So various different things are going on. I use my time well.
Lunch, huh?
You gotta use your time best. So
I gotta cook.
might take the cookie.
How much was the car worth?
A little over north of 40,000.
Wow. Time well spent, it's a lot of cookies.
So,
The motorcycle piece, the 219, they get the same level of treatment or inspection or whatnot, they have the same level of review and they're
Yes.
underneath the same inspectors.
correct, underneath the same inspectors, they're just required to have a little different things. So like, for instance, the spoke adjusters, you know, a regular inspection station that's just doing cars and trucks obviously wouldn't need that. They're also supposed to have a separate lift that's capable of just hoisting the motorcycle up and putting it in the air separately so they can work on the tire, like be a little, some lifts that you probably do it because you could use one of those pieces to put underneath it while keeping the rear wheel up. But yeah, they just have a different lift. So there's like a lot of the motorcycle dealerships, ATV dealerships, sometimes they are also an inspection station for motorcycles. There are some folks that do cars and trucks that wanted to get into motorcycles. I think you're from up Franklin County way. I know there's a couple places last year that put in, they want to start doing motorcycles.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So okay, so vehicle interior area, I ended up skipping past engine compartment. So engine compartment, and that's the other thing. So if you see up top, like I said, if you have a seasoned mechanic, they may have a routine, they're going through everything. You can hit that pass all button and that will automatically check pass for all of those going through. So for instance, some folks will bring the car in, they'll do their whole thing without using this tablet because they're accustomed to do it. Like person you said, your constituent's 40 years, they probably got a routine that they do with every single vehicle. That way you'll see actually on the VIR, it'll say time started. If you see 5 minutes on there, does that raise some eyebrows sometimes? Yes, but there may be a good reason for it because they went and did the whole exam first and then, you know, came through and did, you know, pass all and just worked their way through it. So, I mean, I don't know if you want me to go through every section of what the vehicle inspection is, but that's what this is literally every single slide, take you through the undercarriage. This is the section where it does the emissions. It turn emission key or run switch off for 10 seconds. So it's got a whole section where, you know, it'll tell you here to follow it. It says connect data link cable to vehicle, help connect DLC. That's the dongle that goes in there for the emissions portion. And this is what it takes you through, gives you all the instructions to go through. Obviously, sometimes if someone's replaced their battery or they don't drive the vehicle that much, the vehicle may have not gone through a drive cycle. So basically the readiness monitors that are tested during the emissions portion of the inspection may not be ready. So the mechanic may say, hey, you need to go take this thing, you know, and drive it for a couple of days and then come on back. Same thing, just walks you right through, tells you exactly what to do. Says, does the mill illuminate? Mill is the malfunction indicator light, illuminate when the ignition key, like the check engine light. You know, when you turn your key just partially, you'll see that it'll pop up on your instrument cluster. And walks you right through. And then this will tell you when it's completed. Same thing, walks you right through. And then at the and this is where you're passing the, following the rules and, you know, swearing and attesting to it. So this is the section where the inspection mechanic says, yes, this is the vehicle that I inspected. This is my station number, this is my inspection number, my inspector number that I'm assigned. This is the gross vehicle weight rating of the vehicle. This is the odometer. And you're checking on this. I acknowledge that the information above is correct, and that I performed this inspection. I've advised the customer about the Vermont emissions warranty and related programs, sign their name, hit the next button, and we're going to continue to go through what will bring you next. It's going to then,
I'm sorry, Dan, did you, the odometer reading, did you capture that way back at the very beginning?
yes.
I don't know if I skipped over or missed that part in the very beginning.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, it requires you to take a picture of the vehicle, the odometer, the registration, and the
You have
license.
to download that picture.
That it is in the system. So once they take that picture and the inspection is completed, like us inspectors have access to ABIP, we can go in there and pull that. Also, which is we also encourage the stations to do this. If they fail an item, take a picture of the failure item, and they can do that. They can capture that picture in there, and then they can put a notation in there. Because when I get a complaint from someone, and they're like, "Oh, this person improperly failed me," it really protects the station as well as and the consumer too, because it's like, no, this is a legitimate complaint. You know, there's this, here it is pictured. So we try and encourage the stations, like when you're failing it, take that picture, put it in the system, because then it stops DMV from coming and knocking on your door. I can back up the fact that you properly failed this vehicle if you properly documented it in the system.
Flexibility in the system as far as programming goes. Let's say for the future that I need that odometer reading for some fee of some sort, but I don't pass my inspection. Can I still capture the odometer reading in the piece? I mean, with some programming changes. This might be a little bit outside of your area, but thinking about the fact that we're building this mileage-based user fee and you're going to be required to have that odometer, but you may not pass the inspection. But we still need it in order to calculate the tax that you owe, the fees that you owe, and perhaps if another bill were to go, or another idea were to go through, you still got to say that you went to the inspection in order to get a registration. Anyway, does it have the ability, or would it be through programming a simple task to be able to capture the odometer reading, even in the event of failures or things of that nature?
Well, I mean, if they're doing their yearly inspection, then obviously the odometer reading would be in there each year. But if it was, say, every other year, I would suspect based on ANR and other things with the emissions, it's still going to do an emissions test. So I would suspect even if an emissions, I mean, I don't know for certain, I'm assuming it would be a programming, obviously, but if that was recorded during the emissions portion, then that would still be recorded and there'd be a way to, you know, grab that. But I would assume it would be some type of programming that would have to be done through the vendor, which is Parsons. So then it'll walk you through, you know, attention, please ensure you have automotive sticker stock loaded in the sticker printer. When it says automotive sticker stock, those are the yellow, you know, that you see, because the trailer and motorcycle are a different color. So some folks only have the one printer, so you got to take those stickers out and put your other stock in. So that's why it stops you. Make sure you have the right sticker stock in the printer before printing the sticker.
The vehicle that you saw pulled out of the ditch in Pittsburgh in the last couple of weeks, there in your last trip through Pittsburgh, did it have an inspection sticker on it?
It did, and they had properly documented the advisory on the tread depth of tires at the time of inspection. They were very diligent. So a place down in Rutland that had inspected it.
And then, so they were advised they needed tires,
Yes.
but they didn't fail.
At that point, it was above the minimum required, which was 2 seconds tread.
Okay,
So
was it an accident?
I think it was more inattention. He wouldn't admit he was on his phone, but someone pulled out in front of him. And so he swerved to avoid it and he went quite a ways.
Would have been recorded as an accident and accident report filed? Do you think? I don't know the specific, if you just went off into somebody's lawn or something like that, was it
Trying
necessary?
to remember if there was damage done.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this has to be the exact example, but one of the arguments about safety inspections is, well, we haven't seen an increase in accidents. So under that scenario that you're talking about right there, as an example, it's highly unlikely that an accident report was filed if they went into the ditch.
Yeah,
They pulled their car out, or they got their buddy to pull it out,
Correct.
or and they got the tow truck and there was no damage to anybody else's car. They very likely didn't file an accident report, but the safety inspections showed that it needed to be addressed at some point. But the argument that just because an inspection happen or don't happen in other places or they get rid of it and accident reports didn't go up, I would suggest that just in the example we saw us today, no accident report would have ever been involved, but that person certainly did need to be advised that their tires were in that situation. So I have a hard time with the argument that states that eliminate their safety program, oh, there was no increase in accidents. Well, that's not an accident, but it's certainly a problem.
Correct. And as an almost 26 and a half year law enforcement officer, prior to coming to DMV, could I have told you different things that I know now about a vehicle when we're responding to an accident scene? I mean, when a law enforcement agency shows up on scene, I mean, more often than not, you know, is it from drunken or drug driving? Is it from using a cell phone? You know, is it from some other, you know, inattention or other thing? You know, are you really looking at the mechanical and are they qualified to make that assessment? You know, could a portion of the subframe have broken, which caused the vehicle to veer off into the other side? I mean, unless it's a fatality or a very serious accident, more often than not, that vehicle is not going to get examined by somebody that would have that knowledge. So I think what you're saying is spot on. I don't think it's going to be accurately reported. Then it's going to tell you the sticker was printed successfully, and then printing sticker now, make sure the printed sticker matches the info below. Obviously, currently the inspection sticker just have the last 6 digits. So for instance, if they do a data entry error or, you know, manually enter it and don't put it on there, you know, if they do have some law enforcement interaction, the VIN on the inspection sticker may not match. That's why, you know, it's like, hey, make sure this is there. You know, when we get those events, we will go to the station and say, hey, you may want to have your customer come back in here and have this fixed in the event, you know, they have a problem. Sample the sticker, they scan the sticker, gets recorded in the system, and it's not a great photo because of how small they are. But that is the vehicle inspection report. It documents, one on the top left is all of the passes. And then the second is the emissions showing the various readiness monitors. In this little box there in the middle, that's where it would report if there was any even mismatches. That third page is if there's any factory recalls for the specific vehicles. So that the system does that when it decodes the VIN. And then inspection record processed successfully, and they've been successfully, you can email or print it right from there. And that is the conclusion of the entire inspection process.
I very much appreciate that. Yeah. You mentioned these 1,600 stations plus 1,600 and 219 motorcycle.
The 219 would be included within that 1,600.
1,600. So they could be both, or they might be
Correct.
on their own. Okay. And you mentioned most of the time, or at least the plan goal is they would all get visited at least once a year.
Correct. Yes. So like, for instance, I know for certain, my inspector down in like Rutland, Bennington, Addison County area that he covers, he goes to his stations once a year because he's one of our civilian field inspectors. So he doesn't have a criminal caseload as well. So he's able to audit those stations once a year. The gentleman that's up in the Northeast Kingdom, he goes to his station sometimes even twice a year and audits the stations. But he goes once a year as well. So, I mean, the goal is to get there once a year. During the course of your regular duties, you know, a lot of the times you end up at a lot of these stations too. You do the audit while you're there.
Do they get scored in some way and they get audit? Is there?
It's just a pass fail, or it'll be, and if it's a fail, you know, they need to fix the deficiency. And then you go back, meet with them again and make sure they don't have
There's not a system that would say, or sort of idea of the amount of problem ones we have.
5-star, 4-star.
It's kind of the idea that these ones are compliant and we don't worry about them a whole lot there.
I can tell you for
These ones aren't, I mean, or just your officers know, or, you know, like, it's not there's no formal, but your people know. Well, I'd love to hear what you think about that.
there are a handful of regulars that typically you do. For the most part, everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, for the most part.
About what's the average time that it should take? I mean, I know some take longer and depending on the experience, but I mean, is it 10 minutes, 40 minutes?
Should be about 45 minutes to an hour if
Okay.
you're thoroughly going through and checking everything in that vehicle. For instance, when we do the credentialing with the students who are brand new to the industry, I don't think I've ever seen one of them finish in less than 45 minutes. Usually it's an hour to an hour and 50.
And then there's no guidance on what you charge to do inspections. That's up to the inspection.
That's up to the inspection station. They're just required to have that posted to their customers. That is one of the station designation requirements, that they are required to have that fee posted, pass or fail. And it has to be visible in the area where the customers visit.
So it's a one price. So whether you passed it or failed it, if it's $75, say that's what you charge.
Yeah, and I mean, some stations will say if you bring it back within, this amount of, like within a couple of weeks, it varies by station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody know the other part of that undercover boss type thing? You got an undercover car that, you sting
They
operation?
used, my understanding before I started here, they would do that on occasion and, could it be done? Absolutely. It definitely could be done. I mean, you could do certain things to that car or have one. I know there's a certain dealership that would definitely lend us, one of the vehicles to do that if we needed to. But finding the time with the limited resources we have and our other job duties, we can make it happen, but
Well, we heard some testimony in the committee that some inspection stations would welcome an increase in focus on enforcement and be sure that those that perhaps prey on consumers or should be, that they could assure that that industry is completely is audited and clean, that we heard testimony that they would like to see an increase in your department and your resources.
I have had conversations with various mechanics and usually they're pretty open about that and they get upset. Like if, they're all working from the same guidebook, right? The inspection manual. So if it fails at one location, it should fail at another location. The guy down the street shouldn't be passing it and if there's something wrong with it, and that does anger folks, and that station will call us and they usually want to remain anonymous because they don't want any bad blood with, their industry partners. So does definitely happen.
Representative White?
Dan, so you said that the car inspection is very similar to the motorcycle inspection or virtually the same.
Correct.
Can you just take us back to like where the motorcycle muffler gets inspected and what that process is? 'Cause we were looking at, there's a section in our DMV bill where it was suggested maybe that needs to be elaborated on and the label on the muffler needs to be looked at. And I'm looking at Rep. Casey, maybe I'm not a motorcycle
The
driver.
exhaust system,
Yes, so
like it's like the back lane
noise.
removed so it was louder.
Exactly, so, because I think we had someone
The
in here.
inspection mechanic is supposed to look at the exhaust system. Unless he takes certain parts of that apart, he's not, are there tests that potentially they could do if there was a concern? But some motorcycles are manufactured to be loud. It's just, there are,
But aren't there federal requirements about motorcycle exhausts, and so if you're following the federal requirements, then it shouldn't be
decibel levels
exceedingly
you mean,
loud. Yes, yeah.
that I'm aware of, but I'm not an expert on. My old motorcycle was quite loud.
So the process for looking at the mufflers,
They have to make sure the exhaust is functioning as it's supposed to.
So that
Same thing with a car,
it's
like-
functioning, can they tell if it's been changed?
The thing, could they tell if it's, people put aftermarket pipes on their motorcycles, just like they do with cars. They'll put, and they may bring it in for an inspection. And that's the thing with an exhaust system, it's not overly difficult to change out if you wanted to.
Right.
And you could bring that in for inspection and then put your loud pipes on or put your, device on it that alters the exhaust system afterwards too.
Okay.
Chair, yeah, on the same topic, we were given the actual language, not, what you're showing is what the inspector sees, but the actual language. And under motorcycles, reject if, and there's a bunch of them, there's 7 criteria that's written in here. Any changes, modifications, alterations, additions, or adjustments have been made to the exhaust system that would cause any exhaust system to generate an unreasonable sound level Now, I know nobody has, decimal meters and we can't possibly go down that road. But, motorcycles and vehicles. I mean, we hear vehicles, regularly that they're like, I know that doesn't have an original muffler on it because it's, to me, has been chosen to be loud and, they like that noise. Motorcycles too. Do you think anybody ever gets rejected because, it's excessive noise, even though it's in here? I get that it's hard to make an adjustment or a judgment on it. But if, these, say, motorcycles are getting inspected, and then, when they go by you and you hear them for half a mile going down the road, you wonder, does that meet the requirements?
I have never personally received a complaint that, somebody's motorcycle was failed because it was unreasonably loud. I've never fielded that complaint. And I mean, I haven't had that happen. And then the
Yeah.
best part is where's unreasonable
Yeah.
defined within the manual? It's not. So now you're a judgment, you're asking for the discretion of the inspection mechanic and I think the human nature will come in like, oh, this is a regular customer of mine. Is this loud? Is it not loud?
Yeah.
I think it's fine. It sounds good. It's working as it's designed to work.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dan. You next? Is that what we're doing? Good afternoon.
Like me to begin.
We talking about the changes in this section 24, or are we talking about any new additional stats and information you brought for us, or are we talking,
Yeah, let's
throw a coin up,
jump right
see where
in.
it lands as opposed to heads or tails? See where it lands. I'm flexible on whichever directions, the multiple hanging out there that you want to go. I know that we also have Damien, so we may be able to, eventually click off a few things, but we've got about a half an hour left.
So we have this slides that I had sent last time. Want to kind of go along
Well,
with
the handouts piece with the,
This was yesterday?
last week. What day it was? Wednesday or Thursday?
Friday.
here we go.
Thursday.
Look like this one. Top 10 failure items is on the cover page.
That's it.
Oh,
Right. I don't know if there's up, but we'll start with wheels and tires section. And what I did was I put the actual inspection manual page first, followed by the page with the changes to the inspection process. So for wheels and tires, we are changing number 2. And we're adding deep cut to the worn spot so that it exposes the cord through the tread. And that is because we had taken out number 4, mostly for the ozone or weather cracks on the tire, but we wanted to make sure that we kept the deep cuts. And so it made sense to fit it in with the other worn spot section. And then the other change was number 3. Ambiguity, again, we just want to make sure that it's clear that we're talking about bulges, whether that's any kind of a bumper or not. It's really all the same thing. It's a bulge. So that one was page 31. Is it 33 on there?
Page 3.
yeah, page 3 for us.
There's,
So
yeah, there's.
for the
three
actual
hours,
inspection manual or,
in the document.
okay, in the
Yeah.
document, yeah,
Yeah.
Page 34
of the actual manual, the packet that we have. Yeah.
33, page 33 is page 4 of the PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
Yeah.
It's on the committee page, documents.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm just confused about the reference to page 33, because I'm looking at your.
That was the actual inspection manual page, this page.
Okay.
But if you're looking at the document, the handout, it's page 3 is the changes for wheels and tires.
That's right.
A little confusing. We're all set with wheels and tires. The next change is for the power steering belt. And the change for that was to completely remove, reject it if the power steering belt is broken. And again, I know that we had talked about it last week, there are other rejects in there, not just for that one change.
So what this is saying is if the power steering is not working, that's okay.
It's okay, it's an advisory. You get it fixed, but the vehicle is still operable. It's very hard to get.
Of course, if it breaks while you're driving, it's going to be quite a
It would be,
shock.
you have a really old vehicle. And you're used to it. Springs, torsion bar, shock absorbers and struts. The only change we're making here is to move number 2, vehicle continues free rocking motion after release, indicating loss of shock absorber function down to an advisory. And everything else would stay under reject. The next change is under the braking performance during the road test that we just spoke about. And that's removing the entire road test.
But no road test.
No road test required after the brakes have been changed.
After they've been.
Right, they've been changed, they've brakes, rotors, and then currently there's a road test required. We're saying that that would be removed.
Question.
I'm a little confused. there- On this, no road test is required after you change the brakes?
So you replace the brakes, the rotors. Currently, there's a road test that's required after you change the brakes and the rotors.
For anyone doing that.
For when the brakes and rotors are changed, or for any time.
So if I'm not doing an inspection and, and I have brake work done, rotors or pads, a road test today is required. Nothing to do with the inspection.
No, this is specific to inspections.
So I've come in for an inspection, I need new brakes,
Correct.
and I need new rotors, where everybody's had that problem. And then they say, well, then, all right, go ahead and replace them, and go ahead and replace them. That there's no road test required because you replace the brakes.
For an inspection? I think I'm confused. There is a road test required if you're having your inspection done, there's a road test required.
Currently.
Right.
Understood.
And is that what this is, or this is?
That's the first page is the road test requirements and all the information. The red is just removing all of that, just to note that we are
For the
removing the
inspection.
inspection section for the
Yeah,
inspection.
you were talking about when you have brake parts replaced.
Right, that was just an example. You go in for your inspection to get your brakes changed. You're gonna have to have a road test done. And we're removing that section and saying that there's no road test that will be required
Right.
during an inspection.
Okay. And if I had my brakes, nothing to do with inspection. I got bad brakes, I bring it to the shop, they replace them, That, this has nothing to do with that. Okay, like, you said, when you have them replaced, you had a road test, so that was confusing. I guess.
Yes, everything is.
This is just inspections.
Yeah. Rotors and drums section, we are removing rust, replacing it with pitting. And that is the only change in that section. I know that we've had changes in the past. There appears to still be some ambiguity. Removing rust, period. They'll be able to
There's a
tell.
machine for that too. How do you determine half inch? Is that by like sight?
And
Visual? Yeah, it's done. But is there a tool to measure like you do the tires?
Oh,
Or not?
yeah, there are tools to measure
That's what I was just wondering if it was visual or actually a machine that tells you what it is.
and maybe able to add more.
Pads are for the rotors.
For, well, I mean, whatever, it says half inch pitting. How do you measure half inch pitting? Is that just like a visual or is it just a machine that tells you what
I
it
don't
is?
think there's
Pads are.
yeah, there's little tools that you can use for the size of the pads, like they're different colors, and yellow, like red no-go, yellow caution.
Yeah,
But I'm not aware of anything you can specifically put into that. In the way rotors are made now, if there's severe pitting.
yeah. I'm just wondering how they determine that. I mean, I'm just saying, why don't you say like, like a half an inch, like. I'm just wondering how accurate that is. So it really isn't accurate. It's just more of experience and say.
Represent that.
And it's sort of on the same thing, so, if there's pitting, you have, pitting means more than one, so you're saying none of the pits should be bigger than half an inch.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Next section is the lights, lighting and electrical systems. And I included the ones that we're changing so that you could visually see what we would be basically be adding a new section for advisory because they're all lumped under one right now that are all required. So we would remove those, make that an advisory, and that includes the license plate lamp, backup lamps, and the clearance lamps. Again, the clearance lamps, there is another entire section for commercial vehicles, large commercial vehicles.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Just to clarify, yeah, so,
Totally fine.
there's, you've just added on the list of lighting minimum requirements, you've just added the title where it comes from. And then as you go down, there's 3 of them crossed out that aren't required, won't be required.
4, yep.
4, right. The other ones are still required.
The other ones above that are all required.
Yeah,
You
okay,
would fail still.
yeah.
So
Oh, those are the links, the blue.
The blue is linked to the stack.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, okay, so there's 4 that you're taking out, okay.
So this was brought up before, I think, in the committee. So the lights around the license plate is the first one, and then backup lamps. Well, you put it in reverse and it lights up the area behind you. That will not be a fail.
That will not be a fail. It'll be,
Where it currently would be.
currently it's a fail. All of those lights that are on that section are all fails.
Represent what?
I'm trying to understand how that is, how backup lights are not essential. I mean, don't,
Backup lights as well.
the backup lights, you're saying are, they're not essential, because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think about those as indicating, and those are helpful when you've got a car in front of you that's backing up, because it tells you caution.
Onto your orange.
This guy's coming the wrong direction.
I
So
don't know you're
are
there.
there other lights that are still functioning? I mean, if it's at night, you're gonna have your rear lights, which are red from what I remember. But there's nothing else to tell you that the car's going backwards instead of
Just the
forwards.
backup lights.
So that seems like
So I
a
think,
danger
yeah.
to me.
We looked at other states as well and what they were doing in their inspection and their safety inspections,
Yeah.
in addition to mechanics. But I think that, I don't remember what we discussed, but I think maybe it would be more of a safety issue at a high speed, but in
Yeah,
a
that would be
small area,
scarier.
it wasn't seen as a 100% safety.
Oh, that
I
perplexes.
mean, they're still required.
you'd still be stopped.
So
As far as an
they're
inspection,
required, but they're not required to pass inspection.
correct, they are now, but yeah, in this change, they wouldn't be.
Proposing that, yeah, I have a problem with that.
I think. So I guess.
For the way it's done.
I'm sure the guy that's doing the inspection will say, hey, your backup lights are on your license plate. I'm gonna replace them, it won't fail your car, but you probably get it replaced. I don't know. Would you? I would.
I would.
People would, some people would.
Yeah.
I think
There's,
go back to the conversation that we somewhat started at one point about, and it was brought, it came up over the tinted earlier. We didn't go dig into it then. The theory of what is safety related to the operating of the vehicle versus in the case of the tinted, it was, the safety is more about necessarily the officer or the pedestrians around it, or they can't see in or whatever. But the theory that I understood that you were talking about is the safety of that vehicle and the operating of that vehicle, not a law enforcement safety or a pedestrian or neighbor safety. Where the mindset here, and I don't want to speak for you, was that making these rules was what is the safe operation of the vehicle itself, not the environment that it operated in per se.
the purpose of the safety program is, or safety inspection program is to put safe vehicles on the road. And I think that there's some components in the inspection manual that are not necessarily related to the safety of the vehicle on the road. They're just things that have slowly been introduced to the inspection program as a means to enforce other statutes. Tinted windows, the mufflers, they're loud, they're annoying, but it's not necessary, it's not a safety issue. I think they were kind of veering away from,
The lights on the license plate has no impact on the safety of operating the vehicle, but
if someone's flying down the
we
highway.
want to say the officer probably, or anybody else wants to see that license plate, but it doesn't change.
Absolutely, I mean-
the operation of the vehicle.
And that's not to say that I 100% care about the safety of law enforcement, but this is a vehicle safety.
And I agree, I totally care about the safety of the officer and all of the other pieces that go along with it. I wanted to just spend a minute for the committee to understand the mindset of the changes is what is the vehicle safety inspection, not enforcement or law and for other laws. The safety program of just the operation of that vehicle is what was used to recommend these changes.
Correct.
And that is, we may or may not explain where some of these come from, and that may or may not be the direction that we want to go, but I do want to make sure that I understand that where the DMV came from with their recommendations was that, and it is a subtle, maybe it's a nuanced difference. Representative White?
I appreciate the clarification and I'm just thinking about, I understand the safety of the vehicle, but the vehicles, unless they're farm vehicles operating on their own land and they also will sometimes be on the road, but I think we also have to be thinking about the safety of the vehicle as it interacts with the rest of society, which is on the road and going through pedestrian crosswalks and so forth. And I just think like, I don't know, somebody walking their child behind a car, like with the backup lights, I think about that as a safety issue for the rest of society. So I feel like that should be considered. So leave it at that.
Of course.
Headlamp aiming is next. That was again, much like the brake test. Not necessarily felt that it was necessary. And that's with mechanics and that's with checking with other states that have safety inspection programs. And that will be, the proposal is to remove that section as well. And then the light section, so there are other lights on the dashboard that we are proposing changes to. Currently, they're all listed under reject. The only one that we would be keeping is The brake system failure indicator light or warning light remains illuminated after the engine is started, the parking brake is released. The rest would be moved to
You
advisory.
don't have to, we used to test them to aim them. I used to put you up against a wall and see whether it hit a certain spot. That was back. Sorry, I'm getting back to it.
The brake-
That we used to test headlamps used to have to be next to a certain distance from a wall and then aim them and make sure they went to a spot, but that was an old style of the way cars used to.
When I'm told that's an older.
And that doesn't happen anymore. So now we don't do that at all now.
Some stations still have screens, that's what they'll use. If it looks like the headlights are going straight, there's a standalone machine that you can hook up to the dot on all new headlights, and you can aim that, make it work. But usually if a car's in a collision, that's when the headlights need to be checked to make sure they're shining properly.
It used to be very hard to adjust. I remember an old car that used to aim up into the woods and anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, although I have to say, I think it's, as somebody who commutes to Montpelier and back, I-89, you know, headlights that are coming right at you is definitely, seems to be a growing problem. So,
And my understanding is the way the cars are built now, it's like a factory setting situation that is different than what the old way where you actually used to be able to go in and adjust. This we're showing our age, you used to actually go in and be able to adjust and had to because they would rattle loose, or if you did get in an accident, as you mentioned, you would have to adjust them and fix them. But now it doesn't work that way. You can't even get to a darn headlight to make the change yourself. It's factory setting, I think. I'm a little bit close to out of my element, but it's what you're talking about is how they're aiming them in when they're building them. What
Maybe
used to happen,
brightness.
They're brighter.
Yeah.
LED lights.
they're aimed differently. They have the side, so there's a different,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong, there are problems with that. Representative Casey?
Some of the newer vehicles, I know Toyota does this. You're driving along and it's like, lights are a little low, so you just reach down, there's a little dial and you turn the dial and it raises your headlights.
Uh-huh.
Really?
I was driving around I was in my driveway and I read about it. I got looking at different things. It's like, oh, look at that. I can look for, well, you can't look for coons, but it does have a pretty good range.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Representative Pelley?
I'm irritated.
I was a little confused on the anti-lock braking, which we all newer cars have that lamp that says the ABS is not working. And then this number 2, brake system failure indicator light, is that a different light?
Brake system failure.
Number 1 is crossed out red, number 2 is not.
The brake system failure indicator light and the anti-lock braking system light.
Two
Separate.
different lights?
We usually, you see the ABS light because there's something wrong with the ABS system. Or it could be a sensor that's not.
Yeah.
But the brakes still work.
It just made, you know how some of the newer cars with the advanced, the ADAS, you're talking about the ADAS, the driving automated system. Like, if you've got it in cruise control and all of a sudden if something comes in front of it, it will brake. That could be a sensor saying that function is starting to work.
And that won't fail. That won't fail this, it won't fail this.
ABS light would now be an advisory, but the brake system failure indicator light or warning light is the one we're keeping in. That's the one we were talking about.
I just didn't realize there were 2 lights. Not seen that before. And the ABS light only comes on if the ABS system is not working, or if I lose my fluid in half my system, will the ABS light come on?
I don't know about that specifically. I do know that my wife's car, the ABS light came on because the auxiliary battery had died, which is the little battery next to the big battery.
Yeah.
So even when we replaced that, we had to do a whole reset just to go off, but it had nothing really to do with the ABS.
Yeah.
Going through that whole list. Some people reading ahead.
To vehicle glass,
Well, I think we gotta go through this list a little bit more.
previous one.
Well, the part with the red that says the odometer is not operational. We are required to have odometer readings for like when you sell the car, et cetera, or are you saying the car's still operating safely, so it doesn't fail this inspection if the odometer doesn't work? That makes sense. I mean, from the perspective of the mindset that the car still operates, but if it's not tracking its mileage, when you come to sell it or what, I thought there was a problem, and you're not paying your mileage-based user fee and you're not paying,
I think that would be, yeah, that's,
but it's still operating safely. So we're back into an area. I can't have I guess, I'm not, but I'm using the word I can't move forward with a mileage-based user system for January 1st to start charging battery electric vehicles for mileage and then have it and require a safety inspection so I get the mileage, but then say that I can fail, it's okay to not disable, but have a broken odometer. That'll save you some money then, Phil. Sorry. Representative Fauci probably save some money with that setup.
have it replaced. Yeah.
If it doesn't fail these inspections, I guess I don't know, I would lose confidence on my mileage-based user fee collection if it doesn't fail.
Cap at that point.
I get, yeah, or the cap or the,
Well, you
no,
wouldn't
I'd pay the
know.
minimum, right? I wouldn't have any miles.
No, so you'd have to pay the cap.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, if it stayed the same from one year to the next, but if it broke halfway through, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know, and so you end up paying the cap.
Yeah.
Because
No.
if the mileage is unknown.
Well, you didn't fail it, you recorded the miles. I'm not sure why I would pay the cap. I'd only pay the cap if you didn't get mileage recorded.
Odometer is broken, you won't get mileage recorded.
If you're saying if it's unknown, it goes automatically to the cap.
From one inspection, 1 year to the next, it went up 5,000 miles. They're gonna record those miles.
It would
And then the next year.
still be recorded as not working though. And so if it popped it in and
How do they check that it's working?
the odometer,
Yeah,
Not if you don't take a test drive.
how do you know?
Oh,
That's,
These are simple changes. These are, we're back to that.
Which is,
My
So
dealer
we're
knows.
doing the test drive. We don't know if the odometer works and we're charging money based on that.
well, because it's sent up.
It's my oil change date. I'm like, how do you know how many miles I just drove?
It's sent up to the,
Nothing out of something out of nothing. I build a program based on mileage.
Tracking.
If it works or not, and then I could go to the cap. Well, you have to raise the cap then.
I would say you probably, hypothetically, that might be the case, but then the next question is, what percentage of cars that odometers don't work?
It's almost done, right?
0,
Right.
You know, theoretically,
nowadays, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, just one little
for one,
drill hole,
but yeah,
one little
we
drill
got
hole.
$20 that were,
There we go.
for
We're
a transportation fund.
No, wait,
Donate
wait,
that. Donut money.
Bacon.
All right. I
it's fine.
got a sidetrack, but it's fun. We only have 5-6 minutes left. Let's go.
vehicle glass. Currently, a fail would be there are 2 or more star breaks or bullseyes larger than 1.5 inches within any part of the critical area. That would be considered an advisory now. But there are the other top 4 would remain a fail. And there is a diagram in there that shows you where the critical area is.
So
So. And the power windows would be removed from reject. Any manual or power operated window fails to operate properly. And that would be moved down to an advisory. In addition to moving the same for the rear or driver windows. So it's just 2 sets. Windows to the left and right of the driver as well as the back windows. Just separated into 2 different sections.
Representative White?
And so this is suggesting that if any of those windows are inoperable, it's just an advisory, it wouldn't fail. And did you think about, I mean, does it, if an officer pulls me over and says, go down your window, ma'am. And I say, I can't, because it doesn't work. I mean, I'm just wondering, are certain windows a priority and should be part of the inspection process still, whereas maybe the back windows are less of a priority?
Can't speak to what happens when an officer stops you. My opinion would be that they take it case by case.
Representative Case?
I know when my old hunting dogs are sitting in the back and they've eaten something half rotten. And say they have a little flatulence problem. You really don't want them windows to work.
You're gonna want the windows to work, yeah,
And keep a rock or something in.
be an advisory. I would advise that.
Yeah,
That's a good
part of the advisory right there. Use that as an example.
It's just gonna be our skip.
I just don't want that skip to break out on the House floor when we bring this bill.
Mhm.
Molly can teach us dance steps.
I'm a little uncertain at this point.
I mean, I think that the most critical one would be the driver's side. Window. And it's frozen sometimes in the winter, you can't do anything.
Currently, if your windows don't operate, you fail. But in the future, well, that's good, because on my car, actually, the window's given up. So we need to
We need to keep
add to this.
I'm assuming failed in the up position.
So, amen,
right.
amen.
Sorry about
The one behind me,
Really
there's
doesn't.
one on the back, it goes down, but it won't go back up except occasionally if you don't do the right combination of
Yeah.
lock, unlock, pull the other one, turn the car off, it's not good. But it has an inspection sticker right now.
Exterior body and sheet metal. The big change, aside from the blades that are not operable or have ripped or missing pieces, moving that to advisory. The other big one was to include a diagram of what each part of the body looks like, critical points. And I think that would also help the inspection station identify those areas and the consumer as well.
So is this a, sorry, is this a new section?
No, it's an existing section. We're just adding the diagram.
Oh,
Inspection manual.
color diagrams, new. Okay, yeah.
Nothing else is changing except for the windshield wipers. And that's all I have for changes aside from just renumbering the pages so they match the online version.
Questions? We will, now that we know what the changes are and we know what the inspection process is and how they go about inspecting and how they audit the inspection stations, we will have to have some committee discussion on what we think we should or shouldn't agree with, change, do, or move forward on. So expect that as tomorrow, part of our conversation tomorrow. We'll have Damien tomorrow to mark up those sections that we can. We'll not be able to finish with the bill tomorrow because we haven't had all the testimony on all the sections, but we should be able to get most of it to the end and then also figure out what other last of these things that we want to pursue. So thank you very much for your adjustment to your schedules today and for your
Yeah.
presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, I have heard nothing but great things about the Aviation Day so far.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And we are adjourned